Good morning, this is Sarah, your imperfect carnivore in the UK. This video I've been thinking about doing for a little while actually, and this is the video that I replay into my head all the time when I just want to feel better about my journey, which is quite regularly, as I'm sure you can imagine, because it's been very bumpy. This video is about what my life would be like now if I hadn't discovered carnivore and I'd carried on in the same trajectory, the journey that I was doing before. Now let's assume that I don't discover keto or carnivore in that 9 years at all. I think that's hard to believe because I'm quite a curious person, so I probably would have stumbled across keto, but let's imagine for a moment that I didn't at all. I never went on social media. I just lived like everybody else. I mean, let's face it, I don't know anyone in the real world that's in ketosis at the moment. I am the only person amongst all of my friends in ketosis. I'm not saying I'm a saint, I'm just saying other people just don't seem to be interested in getting rid of the carbs. That's fine. That's up to them. We're all adults. We're all on our journey. This isn't a judgment. This is saying at the moment, I don't know anyone in ketosis apart from myself. And so from that, let's imagine in 2014, I didn't discover keto or carnivore and I just carried on the way I was. Here's the photos that in our screen now of me in 2014 when my weight there was actually not much higher than it is now, but my waist measurement was 5 inches more. So I had a 40-inch waist, and at that time, my top weight was 217 pounds. As you know, at the moment, my weight is 200 pounds, but I look less because of how much meat I've eaten. I look, you know, when people hear that I had 200 pounds, they actually say there's just no way you weigh 200 pounds. You probably weigh about 190, 180, something like that. Because I've eaten so much meat and there's been so much restructuring in my body that I do look like I weigh less than 200 pounds. But anyway, let's look at that photo. At that point, I wasn't sleeping. I didn't have my blood sugar tested, but I probably was on a very fast track to becoming pre-diabetic at that point. I had a friend at exactly the same age as me that was pre-diabetic at that point, so it's very possible that I would have ended up that way too. So let's just talk about the weight for the moment. Let's imagine what my weight would be now, and I'm going to tell you that let's just be really blunt about this. Before 2014 and including 2014, well, even now really, severe sugar addict, severe carb addict. You know, if I let myself go and ate everything I truly wanted to in a day, I would easily be 50 to 100 to 150 pounds more than that picture. So, you know, being keto and carnivore, even just imperfect, has prevented me. You know, it allowed me to be 5 inches less on my waist, but mostly prevented me from becoming seriously, morbidly obese and a threat to my health. So, you know, my journey might be a bit bumpy, but without my bumpy journey, I would weigh in excess of 250 to 300, maybe 350 pounds easily. And it's not, and I don't even have to stretch my imagination to get to those figures. People around me say, oh, you'd never do that. No, I wouldn't now, because I've found a way that I can control my weight that I actually enjoy doing. But back in 2014, I had no idea how to prevent a big health crash, a big train wreck, car crash of a health journey. Whatever people say, I genuinely think my health would have been a massive car crash, starting with the weight. Now let's look at medication. I wasn't on any medication at that point, apart from I was on a medication called sucralfate for my gastritis, on and off. That made me nauseous, so I didn't like taking it, but I was on that on and off. Most likely would have been on something like Gaviscon, something to keep my gastritis in line. And also I was taking creams for my psoriasis. Of course, I'm not taking any of those things now. I think the medications would have built up. I was on a fast track to pre-diabetes, if not there already. My mum had hormone problems and thyroid problems, so I was probably on a fast track to that as well. I would, by now, if I hadn't found it, be absolutely racked with probably arthritis, possibly on some kind of medication to keep my blood sugar stable. Obviously, I'd like to think that I'm so super curious I would have found this way of eating, but this video is just imagining that I didn't. This video is imagining that I still believe the low fat, everything in moderation, 5 a day, avoid fat, you know, avoid butter and that kind of thing. So yeah, I would absolutely definitely be on at least one medication for something, probably more. I'd like to think that my grandma's influence would have kept me off some of them, and I would have ended up researching anyway, but I did trust the doctors more then than I do now. At this point, I have zero trust in the medical establishment at all. If I got run over by a car tomorrow and I got taken in an ambulance, they'd put me back together beautifully. The people that work on the ground in those environments are superheroes, and they would put me back together in an instant. I'm talking about chronic illnesses. I'm talking about having no faith in cancer treatments and diabetes treatments and, you know, treatments for cholesterol and treatments for this and injections for this and injections for that. I don't have any faith in that kind of medicine. I would be feeling incredibly old. Incredibly old. I don't feel old at all. I feel like I'm in my 20s. Probably have some kind of mental anxiety and depression problems by now, because that runs in my family. My mother was on antidepressants. My father was a severe depressing person. He had severe depression, which was quite depressing to be around, if you see what I mean. My brother still has severe depression and has done for 10 years. It runs in the family. You know, as I said in my last video, genetics loads the gun, diet pulls the trigger. I probably would have pulled the trigger on some quite severe depression, anxiety, panic attacks. I dread to think the state I would be in, actually. I would also have and also if I hadn't found keto carnivore, I would have no faith in my future, no hope. I would be one of those people walking around with my fingers crossed, panicking about getting cancer, panicking about having a leg chopped off because of diabetes, panicking about getting heart disease, panicking about this. I probably would have taken the great government injectable of 2021, but I didn't, because I just am so against any form of injection or pill now that I won't do any of it. And I'm happy with that, and I'm an adult and I'm allowed to make those choices for myself. So yeah, so where were we heading in that one? I got off on a tangent there, didn't I? But definitely have no hope for my future. Definitely have no idea of how to potentially prevent cancer. No idea about how to potentially prevent all the things that people, Alzheimer's, dementia. If I'd have carried on that trajectory, I would, by the time I'm 80, probably have Alzheimer's, dementia. And it's even on the diabetes website that Alzheimer's and dementia are basically type 3 diabetes. But there's no cure. There's no cure for that, apparently. No one knows what you know. No one knows why people are getting it. It's just because they're old. Even though on the diabetes website it is touted as being type 3 diabetes. And we know that we can reduce our blood sugars back to normal. And if we can do that, then it stands to reason that Alzheimer's and dementia can be prevented. I stand by that, and I have hope. I have hope that I'm going to have my marbles for a very long time. And I think my children are going to struggle to get rid of me. I think I'm going to get to 110 and my children are going to say, God, can we ever get rid of her? Are we ever going to get our money? Do you know what I mean? When will she die? Yes, children, I've got another 10 years yet, so jog on after my money. So hope for the future. Not morbid obesity, not severe obesity, not on any medication. That's where I'd be. That's where I'd be if I hadn't found it. So in certain ways, I know that social media can be poison, but it also can save your life, because people are now reversing things by stumbling across other carnivores and keto people who have saved their own lives. And in some cases, really saved their lives. You know, we're not talking about dropping 30 pounds here. We're talking about actually saving their lives, actually increasing their quality and length of life massively. Because it is all about quality of life. You know, there's no point getting to 100 if you're decrepit. But if I can get to 100 and I still feel like this, or not much worse than this, I'm going to have a great time. And my kids are going to be cursing me because they can't get rid of me. And I think that's funny. I'm already thinking about having pink hair when I'm 100. Pink hair, and then purple hair when I'm 110. But not little bit purple, very purple. I've got a lot of hope for my future, and I have hope for all the futures of the people that have found this way of eating and that are going to find this way of eating. So yeah, if you've got it to the end of my video, you don't have to, of course. You never have to watch to the end. It's not a competition of who can watch the more minutes. It really isn't. But somebody said to me, if you put in a special keyword at the end, you can find out who's wanting to watch all of your videos. So put the word pink in there for my pink hair that I'm going to have when I'm 100 or 110 or 120. Yeah, hope and vibrancy. Thank you to the carnivore community for just being there and getting us in the right path. That's all I wanted to say. Hopefully this video makes some kind of sense. I'm delighted to be in it and delighted to be talking about it. And you take care, and see you later. Pink. Woo.